let's jump to our hot take, hot topic. Hugh, what's our topic of the day? What are we going to explore?
Our topic of the day today is at how Techstars Meta helped profitable LATAM startup Mercatelli raise a $2.6 million seed. So, and this article is primarily about how Mercatelli, a startup from Latin America, co-founded by Henry Mache, raised 2.6 million in seed funding to enhance its platform, and it allows businesses to manage e-commerce directly through WhatsApp. The platform basically simplifies sales, payments, and inventory for business by integrating those specific functions into the messaging app. And it's hugely popular in the region. What do you guys think?
Let me couch this conversation here. I think for all the founders who are going to be watching, because we have a lot of founders that come to us and they want to raise money, seed, pre-seed. This is a sign of the times, everybody. First of all, I personally experienced this when working with a startup here locally, and he was trying to do like sort of the fulfilled by Amazon for specialty foods and all that good stuff. And I asked him how his order comes in. And he said, Ed, even though I've got a physical store, 80% of my orders come through, guess what? Come through Messenger, come through Facebook, come through Instagram, come through these platforms like WhatsApp. And I know people are crazy about WhatsApp all around the world, not necessarily here in North America. So it shows you the emerging market. So what they did is they were able to use a current technology and leverage off of that and see a gap in the technology and the gap of what's happening in the marketplace. But I want all the founders who are watching this, will be watching this, to look very closely, and we're going to include links to this article so you can see for yourself. This company launched in 2022. Let's just take this in context. 2 years ago, now has 1,000 companies over 20 different countries and has surpassed $1.5 million in revenue. Think about this for a moment. $1.5 million in revenue, and they are profitable. Profit. The P to the R to the O to the F to the I to the T, profitable. And they just raised a seed round after they showed growth of 3.5 times per year. Now, if you think, if you're doubling per year, that is amazing. But they're going 3.5 times per year, and they raised a $2.6 million round. Just in case you missed this, they had $1.5 million in revenue. They were profitable, growing 3.5 times a year, thousands of companies, 20 different countries, and they only raised $2.6 million. Now, to nail it in the coffin even further, I have founders, and I hope some of you are listening to this, who are been trying to raise a $4 million pre-seed round or $2 million pre-seed round with no revenue, no product. This is a sign of times. Right now, the market is struggling, and these premium startups, pedigree startups, are the ones that are going to raise the investment dollars. So if you're wondering, can I raise? What chance do I get? You want to be looking at what the funding deals are happening in the news. Not to say you can't raise money from a friendly angel or family, anything like that. And these funding rounds happen. I'm watching checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars get written pre-seed, pre-product, pre-revenue. But if you want to play with the big boys, you want to play with these VCs, and you want to build a unicorn, this is the type of traction that's required. Tony, what are your thoughts? We advise founders all the time. Like you're going to meet a whole bunch of founders in 15 minutes and start talking about the same thing. What are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah. So when I read this story, a couple of days ago, first off, I was not surprised, right? So I I text and use WhatsApp more these days than I probably do just like my standard text messaging. And that's because I'm meeting my audience where they're at, right? So anyone I interact with down in Latin America, they're all on WhatsApp, right? And so it's a pretty smart move when you start looking and embracing what global technology looks like, and you want to meet your audience where they're at, right? If that's the tool that they're using, then that's the TAM, right? That's the opportunity. If you can identify the opportunity within that potential pool, then it just becomes that much more obvious that you have something to build on. I think there's a big difference of why they've succeeded and are profitable versus if they weren't. They wouldn't have the same traction if they were like built in San Francisco, right? Because it's the same technology type, right? But the cost of location is what makes all the difference, right? They're able to build it a lot cheaper because the dollar just goes a lot farther down there, and they can do a lot more with a lot less. So if you're a startup founder, and I don't care if you're in San Francisco or Calgary or New York or Wisconsin, right? Again, to our earlier conversation, when you start thinking globally and not about where are my people located, but how do I get the best bang for my buck at every point in my journey, that just becomes a big game changer, right? Because now I'm able to stretch capital. I'm able to add that with being crafty and being nimble, and I can get a lot more done for a lot less. To your point earlier about deciding what sort of amount to raise, I always tell people is just raise what you absolutely need, right? Because I think the negativity comes in is, well, when I acquire funding, all my woes are going to be solved. Well, take it from me. It just opens up a whole new set of complex problems. And now you just have people to answer for. So start with a really, really modest raise of like, we needed to get this milestone, get some new traction, new proof points, and now we're moving to the next point, right? Globalization, and just take what you need.
Now, this company's got an uphill road. We just talked about it. They want to hire AI engineers so they can create AI chatbots. This is the future. If you're not building something using AI, at least putting a wrapper or accessing the APIs or the tools, the kits with these LLMs, then it's going to be super tough. Everybody can do it. But let's take a poll here, all right? Audience, you can participate if you want. I'm going to ask Q and Jen. What is the number one messaging app that you use? Q, what's the number one messaging app?
I would say probably WhatsApp.
Use WhatsApp?
I do, yeah.
What are the other messaging apps that you use, and break them down? Jen, giving you the preview so you can break down yours, because I use Slack for work. I use iMessage mostly for family and for friends. I use Telegram maybe 10% of the time, LinkedIn Messenger, and some people have me on Signal. Q, what's your breakdown?
I would say iMessage. Obviously, I'm on the Ed Squad, so Slack as well, largely WhatsApp as well, and that's mostly for friends who either don't have iMessage or they're out of town or like live across the world.
Got it. All right, Jen, what's your breakdown?
For myself, it would be iMessage as number one, Slack for work, and I actually use Facebook Messenger as the other one. I used to use WhatsApp, and I stopped using it just because I thought it was too many messaging systems. And if I have someone on Facebook, I just use the Messenger on there.
Okay, we got a new entry, Facebook Messenger. Who uses Facebook now? I completely deleted Facebook, but I completely understand. Now, here's the other thing. I also use WeChat because of all my contacts in China. Everybody uses WeChat. Now, I'm using this as an example for all the founders out there that go, oh, this is a really great idea. I'm just going to go put something on WhatsApp now. The market is fragmented here in North America. And I'm piggybacking off of Tony's point in terms of what it's like to be in another country. I could build an app within WhatsApp in China and immediately get so much traction. Like, it's absolutely insane how WhatsApp works and how we got that going because of the network effects and how dense and how connected and the domination of WhatsApp. Here in North America, you've got all these companies competing for the same thing. So it's so fragmented. So you're going to have to figure out other ways to break into the marketplace. And that's where people go omni-channel, or building your own app can sometimes make sense if you can get that adoption. But there's such a difference. And that's what I mean. Like, we can hear these stories and say, this might work in Brazil, this might work in Latin America, but it's not going to work here. And that's the reason you need to do that idea validation, that customer discovery, and actually go and talk to your market. Tony, I know you got opinions on this.
Well, it comes down to founder credibility, right? Where if I say I'm going to build something that's going to like work in the WhatsApp ecosystem, the first question is, okay, what do you know about LATAM that's going to allow you to do that? Because if I say I'm going to build something for WhatsApp that's going to be for the US and Canada, right there, my credibility goes out the window because it's just not widely used. Versus like, if I'm LATAM based and we know that like, hey, my culture, we use this all the time. It's a way of life. They automatically have more credibility than I do, right? So that's then where I'm strategically going to probably go look for a co-founder down in LATAM to basically fill in that kind of domain expertise to kind of have that strength, right? I think that knowing your market and where you come from and who you're serving is really vastly underrated, because I think a big challenge is if they don't find you credible, they're not going to buy from you, and they're certainly not going to invest in you.
How would you build credibility? Like, if you needed to go and break into a market, or what are the things that you would do?
Put in the reps. That's what I did. Like, I mean, when I started doing this 4 years ago, I didn't have any contacts in Latin America, but I put in the reps. I started talking to people down there, started interviewing anybody and everybody I could, got one placement. Just one. And it took me forever to do it, right? But what happened was I got them in, treated them really well as an employee, right? When it came time to fill my second role, what did I do? I went to that employee and said, like, yo, you got somebody for me? Yeah, let me tell my friends. They would love to work for you. it just started snowballing from there and just created this kind of effect, this network effects that you're always talking about, where all of a sudden I would post on LinkedIn about, hey, I need somebody. I've got people that are basically signaling for me, hey, come talk to Tony. He's got these opportunities. And it's just organically grown. But you have to put in the reps and be authentic, right? Kind of going back to our original conversation is if I say I'm going to do, and I'm not perfect. I feel bad when I don't always follow up with somebody just because like my bandwidth gets blown up. And so, but I own it and I'm apologetic about it and it won't happen again. And people get that. But again, it's just you put in the reps, you're authentic and you're genuine and you take care of people. And that's how I was able to get credibility down there. Where now, if I just say I need somebody, I just say like, who do you know? I got people coming to me, and it's a great place to be.
Hugh, you looked into this story and you're doing some
I did.
research. What's
I
the
did.
buzz? Like, what are people saying about it? Because it really is, and I think it fits nicely with what Tony's been talking about. What other factors are we not looking at or we should pay attention to in this story?
I think that most of the factors you guys are paying attention to. I think one of the most important points between yourself, Ed, and Tony is, just how important that validation process is. Because in the validation process, you can also have a good gauge of who are the best investors for me to pitch to. Who should I get in contact with to be part of an accelerator, or which accelerator? Where should I be a part of it? The mention that most of the investors for Mercatelli are actually South Asian men. People in India use WhatsApp more than they do in North America. So they know and they see the importance and the potential of something like Mercatelli. We're touching on all of the most important parts.
If I were to try to go get investment right now from a round of angels to say, we want to build something on for WhatsApp, and they're based in San Diego, 99% of them are not going to see the value or the need for it. So I'm just wasting my time and spinning my wheels versus go to Southeast Asia and talk to people where it's a part of their culture and their society. They'll get it a lot faster, right? And so I think sometimes one of the mistakes we make when we're trying to raise funding is we don't target the right investors. We think we want to target anyone and everyone. And yes, volume is key. And I can tell you some stories about like the blood, sweat, and tears that we did to raise. But we learned it was a lot better to be more targeted and finding investors that they saw the value because the mission resonated with them.
Matching with investors, so important. Pro tip for anybody watching this: if you are building something in the same space, adjacent to it, in the same market, what you do is you go look up those partners, those general partners or the associates or the analysts inside those companies that invested, and you contact them. You can find their information. Say, hey, I saw that you invested in Mercatelli. We got something that we think will complement your portfolio. What do you think? And then that's how you research and you get to know the market. Just a pro tip.